Yo, what's good, team? It's your boy Vade, aka Pro Benchwarmer, and I'm bringing you a different type of Duel Links video today. Today we're talking about the meta and how all the shifts and twists and turns that the meta has gone through, and my opinion on it. TLD dub. The meta is always going to change, and it will be changing in a couple of days when we get GX characters, GX skills, new GX cards and support, and so on and so forth. But also TLD dub, you should always keep a watchful eye as to what cards are being released and what you can do to make a set, and then try to make it consistent. Now, to talk about the meta, the main reason why decks are tiered the way they are, I believe, in my opinion, is because of their consistency. The reason why Red Eyes is all the way at the top is because it's super consistent. You can get a Red Eyes or two Red Eyes out by turn 3, like insanely quick, then through your deck insanely fast, and it has the cards to be able to keep up with the meta. However, people fail to remember that before all of these Red Eye support cards that we've gotten with Wyvern and Spirit and Insight and Champion's Vigilance we have since the beginning, but before all of that, the way you were playing Red Eyes is Blue Dragon Summoner into Black Dragon Chick into Red Eyes on the field, or you're tributing and getting that Vigilance on. It was super slow and super inconsistent, and that's why the meta deck at the moment is way better than the past. With new cards, with new skills, with new support, there's always going to be a shift into how a certain deck or certain decks work. Excuse me, sorry about that. Yeah, I remember the days where I seen Black Dragon Chick and I'm like, oh crap, Red Eyes is coming out. But it wasn't even that strong because people were playing Blue Eyes for some odd reason at that exact same time with no support. But look at even Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes and big decks with big beaters in the deck were trash at the beginning of the game. But then we got Kaibaman, we got Vanguard, we got Wyvern and all the Red Eye support. We also got Kid Moto, we got Totem Dragon. Which still isn't crazy meta, but then we also got Mausoleum of the Emperor, I believe it is, and we got other ways to get these decks from being super bricky to actually being some kind of consistent, with skills like Destiny Draw, with skills like Beatdown, with skills like Last Gamble, I believe. Blue Eyes or Last Gamble was meta at one point. It's all in the way that people shape the deck and see how well it nets wins online. That's the same thing that can be said with Phoenix. If Phoenix was in that box, Phoenix and Yaksha and Fire King Island, and no like support, no Super Rush Headlong, no enemy controller, let's say enemy controller wasn't in the game or something like that, or it was still hard to get, you know, without the reward system, it'd be pretty difficult to work that deck out. But that deck is consistent. Why? Because of Restart, because of the back row, because of Fire King Island, because of things like Destruct Potion, things like Hane and Gale Lizard to send things back, like Spear Karibo to prevent yourself from taking hit. Card of the Soul as well. Card of the Soul, not in if a Phoenix deck was not running Card of the Soul, it would be no consistent way to draw out Phoenix from the deck. And that's like stuff like that, little extra cards here and there. Also with decks that it took a couple boxes in order to actually fulfill itself, we say Blue Eyes and Red Eyes. A deck like Psychics with No Mortal can resist. I remember when No Mortal was first discovered and people were like, yo, this ability is hot garbage. And then we got our first batch of Psychics, and I'm like, and everybody was like, yo, Psychics are trash because they take your life points and you get nothing for it. Well, you get like small little things here and there for it, but nothing too big, nothing too crazy. But then as soon as we got, like, even when we got Brain Research Lab, it wasn't that great. We got Overdrive Teleporter, it still wasn't that great. People paired it up with Destiny Draw and stuff like that, which made sense because you're losing life points. But now, since we got Watt Psychic Fighter, we got Human Psychic Borg, we got Serene Psychic Witch, we got Psychokinesis, cards that the deck strongly needed. You know, back row removal and in back row removal alone in Destructotron, card removal in Psychokinesis, and losing life points works with skills like Access Denied and the aforementioned no mortal can resist, and also Destiny Draw still if you're still running that. But it works really well. I actually faced on the ladder, I faced a Titan Showdown Psychic deck, which is insane of putting those two together. But yeah, like I said, cards like that made psychics become a part of the meta. You know, you facing a Shizu, you know what you're facing, and you know that if you cannot match up with it, you can't go toe to toe with it, you're about to get blown away by Skull Servants being put in your deck. That's bad. It's bad. Just the same thing with zombies. We got chaotic compliance, not chaotic compliance, wow, I'm bugging, Crimson Kingdom, which gave us Gazuki, and Vampire Lord, which were great cards. But then we got the next mini box, which gave us Heavy Knight of the Flame and Ill Blood. So if you wanted to play zombie Gemini, there's your deck right there. And then we got Supervise in the card trader, and there goes your deck right there, all put together. But it took different resources, and then that became a meta deck. But it isn't as high because it isn't as consistent. A lot of other pieces are needed from the jump in order for the deck to get going. Like you need a Gazuki in hand, or you need a Supervise real early in order to get that thing going. Also, we got Red Eyes Zombie Dragon, which helped out zombies like crazy, and also helped out Red Eyes. But when you see players on ladder with like completely weird or different decks that you think are weird because they have cards that are not fully optimized at the moment, like I went online on PvP and I seen a Buster Blader 3-star demotion deck with Buster Blader, the Destruction Swordsman, with no other support. Like it had all the Buster Blader cards, and I'm like, I don't think we have a Buster Blader meta yet. But you know what? I applaud you for trying. You feel me? That's the main thing. I applaud you for trying. Same thing with like things like BLS, Secret Soldier. Like it was like at first people were like, yeah, this card isn't that great. But then we got the creator. We got like ways to get it on the field, consistently get it on the field, consistently banish opponents' monsters with AD Changer, and using it with the Sacred Soldier, and just finagling things together, and there you go. You got a consistent deck right there. Like I can name a whole bunch of decks that are like at first were trash, but then because of added support, or because people like started fidgeting around with the cards and placing things here, things there, like they became so much better. But when it comes to trying to build your own deck, you have to consider what the meta is. You know, you got to be able to build a deck and be like, okay, well, this doesn't lose to Red Eyes, or this doesn't lose to Toons. Oh, look, Toons with 3SD Toon Barrel Dragon just completely upped its usage. And also with Toon Kingdom coming out, I remember when Toons, the first time I faced Toons, people were running Mayu Ryuran, and it's a Toon Word skill, and I just like stormed that off, and it was garbage. Like twisted it off, and the whole deck was dead. So having Toon Kingdom, having that protection, and having that protection for the monsters on the field, and getting monsters that don't die when Toon Kingdom is off the field, that was a great boost to Toons. Every deck has gotten some type of boost as the game progressed, as more cards have been added and all that stuff. So when you look at a pack, maybe you look at a pack, like a box, and you're like, oh, these cards suck, but maybe you can put them with cards from another pack, or cards from the card trader, or cards from, you know, standard duelist or legendary duelist, and then they start to flesh themselves together and start to flesh out a deck. And those who try to innovate a deck and try to make their own deck, you know, I applaud you, because it's really hard in this meta. You got to consider a lot. You got to consider the anti-meta decks. You got to consider the meta decks, and you got to, you know, ladder. And I see people get hate for hitting King of Games with like Red Eyes and what other decks, Phoenix. Like, yeah, you know, they're spammed all over the ladder because they're consistent. You're pretty much just farming wins with those decks. You know that you're gonna get at least 5 to 7 or to 10 wins with Phoenix, with Red Eyes. Those decks just work. Maybe not Phoenix so much now, but yeah, Red Eyes, Toon Barrel Dragon, just Toons in general. What other decks that I tilted on? Like I made it to King of Games with Ice Barriers, and that's just an OTK deck. For me, it's kind of consistent. It's like not fully there, but it was consistent enough for me to essentially farm wins all the way to King of Games. But with decks like my Swift Birdman Joe deck, it took a while to build that deck, and it's still not fully optimized. Like as the new box came out, I was looking for wind monsters that have really good effects that work with this box, but it doesn't so far. But there's always the possibility with GX around the corner. If you look at the new box, we got Flash Fusion, D-Fusion, Fusion Recycling Pen, King of the Swamp. There's clearly a fusion deck that's maybe not in that box itself, but maybe in the future when we get the Neospatians, or whenever we get like other decks that have heavy fusion monsters, that have really good fusion monsters, there's a build there, there's an OTK there, there's a consistent deck there, and then maybe that will be meta, or maybe it will trounce Red Eyes because it's faster than Red Eyes, or so on and so forth. There's always that aspect. So also TL D-Dub, if you want to build your own deck, go ahead and do it. Test it out a million times. Mostly just do it at, like, if you hit like Platinum 1, try out a deck there. And you never know, you might stumble onto the next meta deck. In fact, that's how meta decks become meta decks. There's somebody just finagling around with a couple cards. They work, they're consistent, they get a whole bunch of wins, they tell people start using that deck, it becomes successful for a wide variety of people, and then that deck becomes the meta because it is consistent. The same way Guns' Last Gamble Desert Twister deck became super paramount. Whenever you saw a Last Gamble Joey on the ladder, you knew what deck it was. You feel me? It was a deck that Guns Blazing put together. It worked out for him. It was consistent. He hit King of Games with it, and then other people tried it and hit King of Games with it, and it became meta. You feel me? That's what happens. At first it was like, yo, what is this jank deck? What is it doing together? But it worked. There's always somebody that's gonna build a deck that's like that, where at first it just doesn't look like it makes any sense, but when you see it on the ladder, you see it played. Like the first time I looked at a Red Eyes balance deck, I'm like, what am I running a deck with 5 monsters in it for? It is not gonna get me any type of wins. And then I used it, I built it, and I used it, and it just works. It just works. And because it just works, it can plow through the meta, and it became a consistent meta deck. But had that deck be used without the advent of Red Eye Spirit, Red Eyes Insight, Wyvern, and what other decks, other cards in that deck that I run Magic Drain, at least one Magic Drain. Had I not have those cards in that deck, I'd still be relying on Black Dragon Chick in order to get Red Eyes out without tributing, and that's slow, and that's garbage, because I need that card plus Red Eyes, and then I gotta protect that card on the field before getting Red Eyes out, because somebody can just econ take that card. There goes my turn. I get it back, and then on their turn just summon a monster and just attack over it, and there goes my dead Red Eyes in hand. Oh, another card that I keep glossing over, Cards of the Red Stone. Just instantly making Red Eyes that much more consistent. So I just want to let you guys know that the meta is constantly changing. If you are frustrated with Red Eyes at the moment, I'm sorry. It's really good. Maybe you could build a deck with Red Eyes in mind to break Red Eyes. That's how No Mortal Can Resist became a good skill, because it just turns those Red Eyes into Skull Servants, and then works it out and sends those things to the back to the deck, thus killing Red Eyes, because you don't have any Red Eyes anymore to summon from the grave. Also with Phoenix, also with what other decks? Ninjas, not really ninjas not so much, but yeah, I mean, build a deck that consistently, work on its consistency, and once you get the right consistency, try it out on the ladder. Hopefully it nets you at least like 5-10 wins, and then when that happens, maybe you built yourself the next meta deck. With that being said, I'm gonna get going. Peace.